Testing multi-mode cable with encircled flux launch adapters allows this test to comply with TIA and ISO specifications for encircled flux measurements. So let's talk quickly about what encircled flux means. In general, encircled flux is a measurement of the light radiating from the connector that's coming out of the light source of the test equipment going into the cable under test. So if we look at this SC connector here, you can think of it as looking down at the like the rings of a tree, and the light intensity we want to be even from the center to the outer edge of the core of the fiber. Now with different light sources, some might be very bright in the middle, some might be even, some might be dimmer in the middle and brighter on the outside, or offset to one side so the light is brighter on one side of the core than the other, any number of factors. But so really what we want to have is even light throughout the face of the core that we're injecting into the cable under test. And the reason for that is that we want any test equipment brand to be able to measure a given cable and that they all provide the same measurement results. When you don't use encircled flux, one tester could measure very high, one very low on the cabling, and it provides inconsistent results in the industry. So as a result, we have encircled flux launch modules, and it's a launch cord with a module in the middle that is a mode conditioning module, and it has a directional input and an output. So in this one here, the light needs to go from left to right, meaning the black end connects to the light source itself, and the orange end of this cable coming out connects to the cabling under test. So we have the black going in and the orange coming out. The other thing to keep in mind with these, and a quick reference guide that comes with the kit will help remind you, is that when testing, do not make the diameter of a loop less than 15 centimeters or 6 inches. Because if you make that diameter too tight, it can affect the output of that and start stripping light away from the outer edge of the core, the outer modes of the cable. So keep that in mind when you're testing, that you want the cables to be either relaxed and straight or in a loop that's greater than 6 inches in diameter. So we'll take a look at how to set up the encircled flux cables and do a set reference or field calibration with them in just a second. Now we're ready to perform our field calibration or set reference using our encircled flux launch cords. What we'll need is 2 cords, and these are available with an SC-SC or an SC-LC configuration. And what that allows me to do is connect directly to an LC cable under test if I have the LC version, or an SC cable under test with the SC version. We also need 2 standard test cords, non-encircled flux cords. In this case, these will be LC to LC cables that we'll use after we do the set ref. The first part of doing set ref is to press the preferences icon in the upper right corner, and then we'll go to the set reference selection, and we're configuring it for 1 jumper normal mode. So it's showing us to connect 1 jumper directly between each of the handsets. So make sure we clean our connectors. And in this case, the black cable is the input side, and that's plugging into our TX or light source port. And the orange side is the output. In this case, we have the LC version, which means we need the LC connector on the receive port of the other handset, which is what we have in place here. So we have the LC connector on the receive port. So we'll take off this cover and clean it. And we should see that LED start blinking green when it's connected, which it is. Take our second cord, the input side, and that will connect to the TX port of our remote. And clean the LC output side. And that goes in the RX port of our main. And when we connect that, we should hear the chime indicating that the handsets are linked to each other. There it is. So we're connected and ready to perform our set reference test. So we'll press F3. And again, after it's finished, we will need to have two standard non-encircled flux launch cords to connect to the receive ports after the calibration process is finished. Okay, so it's showing us to disconnect the cable from the receive ports. So we'll do that at each end. We press continue. And now it's instructing us to connect our standard non-EF cables to the receive ports. And push continue. And our calibration output is good. We're at minus 21 dBm. The calibration with the standard cables was at about minus 19. So you can see that we're losing about 2 dB of power inside these encircled flux modules, which is totally expected. So it's in the green, we press OK. So we now have the FiberTEK set up and calibrated with our encircled flux launch cords. I've already got the remote handset connected at one end of this LC fan out cable. And on the second hand, on the main end, I wanted to demonstrate to you which end should go on which fiber you're testing. The receive cord, so this blue cord is going to the receive port of the LANTEK, and this orange cord is coming from the transmit port from the encircled flux module. This is a typical SFP fiber module. This is a 10 gig one. And the left port on here is the transmit port and the right port is receive. So this is the transmit port, meaning light is coming out of here. So when we are plugged into our patch panel, our duplex LC ports, the left port is where the light would be coming out on the active network. So I'll insert the receive cable on the left and the transmit cable on the right. I already have the remote side hooked up here. Same orientation, receive on the left, transmit on the right. And that's because these cables, the installed cabling has the flip, the reverse from A to B already in it. So I should hear when I plug in this last cable, the chime indicating that the partner finder is working and that my polarity is correct. So I line this up and insert it. And there it is. So there's my chime. So I know my polarity is correct. I have receive on the left on both sides, transmit on the right on both sides. And on the handset, the option to test has turned blue. So I can just, now that those are network connected, I can run through and run that test. And when that's finished, then I can go to the next set and the next set and the next set and run through my 6 different fiber connections here on this panel. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.